Hello and welcome to the Mad Knitting Podcast. This is episode 1. Maybe one of one. I don't know if I'll ever make another one, but I'm trying it. My name is Susan. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm a knitter. And there are some other things to say about my life, but I think I'll save that for another time. Do another more lengthy introduction some other time, because I want to try and keep this kind of short for today and see how it works. You can find me online as madtown_mama on Instagram. I'm also Madtown Mama on Ravelry. That's without the underscore. So that's where you can find me. I used to have a blog called Mad Knitting. That's how I got the idea for the name for this, because why throw out a good idea? That still exists on the internet somewhere, although I have not posted to it in a really long time, like years. So I have a few things to share. I've been knitting since I was about 8 years old, and knitting obsessively for like the last 20 years, I would say. So I have a lot that I could potentially go on and on about and share. So I'm just going to keep it kind of simple today. I've got one old FO, one brand new FO, a few things in progress, one planned project I'm definitely going to start soon. And if there's time, I might share a little bit about what I've been reading, because I'm a big reader and I like to know what other people are reading. So that's what I'm going to share for today. So the first FO that I'd like to share is actually the sweater that I'm wearing. This is called the Trago sweater. It's by Melissa Schwashery, I think is how you say her name. I'm not sure if she's designing anymore or if she has done anything recently, but this was a pattern that was released quite a while ago. I think I started it at least 4 years ago, because I stalled out, I think, on the sleeves. I'm gonna hold this closer so you can see that there's a nice texture on the sleeves. For some reason, I stalled out on the sleeves, and I stuffed it in the bag and stuck it in the basement on the floor. This is critical here. On the floor in an unfinished room that I keep all my knitting and other craft things. And in the summer of 2018, I took a long road trip with my kids because we just had some time and wanted to go see family. And while we were away, there was a huge storm that dumped a foot of rain in one day on our side of the city. And we had to rush home and help my husband rip everything out of the basement. I learned how to demo drywall, demo carpet, demo trim. The whole thing was kind of a harrowing experience, although we were much better off than many other people around us because we didn't have like structural damage. Anyway, this sweater was sitting in a bag on the floor and was one of the few things that got really wet from floodwater. So I was debating if I should even keep it. Fortunately, most of my other stuff in that flood was in plastic totes, so the totes got kind of cruddy, but everything inside stayed dry, but there were a few things in bags that got soaked. I decided that it was very unlikely that there was, it was obvious that this wasn't like sewer water, and I know that I can wash wool. I've used cloth diapers and washed those, so I figured I'm gonna wash this and finish it. And this is my flood sweater. This is sort of a testament to that, to the resilience of that period. It was kind of a rough time. It was right when a lot of other things were going on. Anyway, the yarn I used for this is from Blackberry Ridge, which is a local mill about an hour away from here. It's a mix of wool and a little bit of mohair. So it's very, very warm and very, very, I've worn this a lot and had to wash it several times, and it hasn't pilled or shown too much wear or anything. So it's a good staple sort of wardrobe piece. That said, I'm feeling really warm right now because the sun is coming in and it's late in the day, so I'm gonna take it off and set it aside. The second finished object is something I finished very recently, and I'd like to show you what it is. I have 2 nieces that live in Virginia, little girls. The older one is 5, and I got to see her over the summer, and she asked me to teach her how to knit, and she was immediately hooked. Every time I sat down, she would say, "Auntie Susu, do you want to knit?" And it was very, very sweet. And I indicated that if she wanted me to knit her another sweater, because I've already knit her and her little sister lots of sweaters, that I certainly would. And being a very opinionated child, my niece gave me some very specific instructions for her sweater. She said she wanted it to be purple, she wanted to have some pink in it, she wanted it to have a hood, and she wanted it to be a pullover. I asked her if she wanted it to close in the front like a jacket or just pull over like a sweatshirt. And so she said pullover. So this is what I made for her. Let me see if you can see it. It has a hood. So the details here are that it is the Kohl sweater by Dansk Knits, K-O-L, which is actually originally written as a cardigan. So it's top down, so you cast on, increase, it's got this garter button band that normally goes all the way down the sweater. But I just overlapped these and kind of made a Henley and attached it to go on the round. So my thought here was that it would still fit over her head without a problem. And then there's a pretty generous hood. You pick up the stitches and do that after. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I added the striping in also. That was my addition. I kind of did sort of a, I like to vary the width so it got more and more pink as you go down. And then I did a split hem at the bottom just because I like that look. So it's a little hard for me to judge how it's going to fit her, but it looks pretty roomy. So I'm hoping that this will fit her at least this year, maybe next year. And she has a little sister, so if she grows out of it, there's another child who can wear it. So those are the 2 finished objects I'm going to share for today. I have a few works in progress that I'd like to share. I have a few really old ones that maybe I'll do a whole feature on those some other time, but the things that I'm actively working on right now, I'm going to start with another sweater from my other niece. This is the little sister of the sweater you saw. So this one is by Danny Sunshine. It's called Pixie Dust. And it's very cute. This is a full-on cardigan. I am using Knit Picks Provincial Tweed in the Jam colorway. And I noticed when I was pulling stuff out for this that I kind of have a theme going here. Normally I'm not so much into purple, but lately I seem to have been doing a lot of things in purple. So the Provincial Tweed is listed as a worsted weight yarn. I really think it feels more like a DK weight. I went ahead and swatched on size 6 needles and I was getting 5.5 stitches per inch, and I really liked the fabric I was getting with that. So I searched for a pattern that would match that gauge, and Pixie Dust is right in line with that. It has just a little bit of an eyelet pattern at the top, and other than that, it's a pretty straightforward top-down raglan cardigan. I find the yarn to be pretty busy. If you look at it really closely, you can see there's a couple different colors marled together to make the yarn, plus there are tweed bits in both like kind of a gold, and there's a dark brown or gray. So there's just sort of a lot going on, and I wouldn't want to do cables or anything too elaborate because I just don't think it would show up in this yarn. But it's very soft. It also has really generous yardage. This is almost a full skein. I did the entire body with one skein of yarn and the swatch. And I just had to start the second skein to do the sleeves, and that's not really going to take very much. So I should have plenty left over. I bought 3 skeins, so there should be plenty left over. Actually, I already knit a hat out of what I knew was going to be left over and sent that off, and that's a whole different story. But so you can't see it, but it's a plain hat in the yarn you just saw. So that's that. Another work in progress. While I'm on this family, their mother, my sister-in-law, has a birthday coming up, and I don't think she's going to watch this. But the whole family is quite knit-worthy, but she knits sometimes and is always extremely appreciative of the things that I send her and her daughters and my brother. So I decided to make her a pair of mittens because they do live in Virginia, but they're kind of at a higher elevation. They're in the southwest part, approaching the Blue Ridge Mountains. So it does get pretty cold there in the winter sometimes. So I decided to make her a pair of mittens. I'll show you the yarn first. I'm using, this is sock yarn and then mohair silk lace blend by Artistic Lily. This is the vintage Easter colorway. My sister-in-law really likes purple, and I loved how this one looked. So I decided to get these 2 to hold them double-stranded. And I am making simple mittens. It's the world's simplest mitten pattern by Tin Can Knits. So I held the 2 strands together and I got a fairly dense sport weight gauge, and my goodness, this is soft and warm. I know that it's been a huge trend lately to hold yarn doubled with mohair, and I mean, up until I made these mittens, I was like, oh, whatever, that's just a trend. I'm not going to do that because I'm not the type of person to like join a bandwagon just because, but somehow this color spoke to me, and I thought, what would be nicer than a warm, light, soft pair of mittens? So I'm hooked now. Like, there's no going back. I am totally at that party. I'm not leaving. I'm almost done with the second one. I think I've got like 2 rounds to go on the thumb, and then it'll be ready to go. So that's fun. There's plenty left. So I thought about making her hat to go with it too, but I know that some people are kind of sensitive to mohair. Like, it makes some people itch, and I didn't want to make something that would go, you know, on her head if it was going to be itchy. I think hands are a little bit safer to start with because your hands don't tend to be as sensitive usually to stuff like that. So hopefully it's okay. If she likes it, then I'll make her hat. Okay. So one last quick whip. To lean over to pick it up. I am always making socks. It's my go-to for when I have to sit through meetings or Zoom calls or wait at my kids' music lessons or anything like that, or you know, just when I have to be paying attention to something going on, but I really need to keep my hands busy. A simple sock is something I always have going. So I'm gonna show you the one I have in progress. Although I haven't picked it up in like over a week because I got distracted with other things. This is, the red is waste yarn. This is Knit Pix Felici in the Speed Racer colorway. It's one of their new colors this year. I had not bought Knit Pix Felici in years, and I think they released some colors just before the summer sale, or before a sale in July, so I thought, okay, I'll try some. So I got this, and I like how it's knitting up. It seems very Halloween appropriate, so it's too bad I'm not gonna have them done by Halloween, but that's okay. I'm doing the, what is the Susan B. Anderson? Simple operator socks pattern. It's a very straightforward pattern, but she gives really good instructions for doing an afterthought heel. So that's what this is. To be honest, an afterthought heel is not my favorite method for making socks. I just find it doesn't fit my foot quite as well as a flap and gusset. But when you're using self-striping yarn and you don't want the stripes to get interrupted, afterthought heels or short row heels are a better choice, I think, than doing like a heel flap and gusset, because then the stripes get all wonky otherwise. So that's what I'm doing. I think I'm gonna give these to my daughter because she likes to wear colors like this, at least on her feet, and she likes to wear a lot of black kind of otherwise. She's 13, so I think I'm gonna give these to her maybe around Christmas. Okay, that is it for the finished objects that I can show you and the works in progress that I have on hand to show you. I did want to share a couple of things that I have planned to do very soon. Now, normally, you need to understand, normally I am not a big planner in terms of projects, or I will plan and then those plans will change as soon as I get a whim to do something else. Which is kind of, it's just how I roll. I am normally actually a very organized person. I have a degree in planning that I just got a little over a year ago. That's a whole different story. And I do tend to be very type A and need to know what's coming and need to be very organized. But I'm also, when it comes to creative stuff, I don't like to keep myself too constricted in a box. So like the sweater for my niece, this wasn't planned very far ahead of time because she asked for it. And I actually had to go shopping for the yarn. Shout out to Fiddlesticks Yarn Shop in Madison that just opened this summer. They were great. She helped me pick it out. Support your local yarn shop when you can. And the mittens that I am making for my sister-in-law, that was kind of a last minute. Like, I happened to find the yarn online and was like, oh, this will be perfect. This is what I have to do. So, you know, sometimes that's just how it goes. But there are a couple things that I have planned, and I thought I'd go ahead and share them here because I'm pretty sure the people that are going to be getting them are not going to watch this. So while I'm in the subject of my nieces, I've got this sweater, I have the other tweed sweater in the works, and the color is partly inspired by this huge piece of fabric that my mom gave me. I think there's at least 3 yards here. I forget what she said she was going to do with it, but when I was visiting there once, she said whatever it was she was going to do with it, she had changed her mind or didn't get around to it. So I said, you know what? I could take this and I could make dresses for, you know, for the little girls. And she said, oh, I was hoping you would say that. So I do so sometimes. It's very sporadic. But I have made, they wear dresses all the time. I have made things for them before. So I have this fabric and it happens to go just beautifully with the sweater I made and the sweater I'm working on. You can see the yarn here. There are so many colors in this thing that you could, I mean, you could wear, I think you could wear this green, this bright green, it's almost yellow. You could wear white with it. There's several shades of pink. There's a couple different shades of blue and aqua. So there's a lot of possibilities, but I thought that I would make little dresses to go with the sweaters and send them off. I really honestly thought they'd be done earlier this fall, but I'm thinking Christmas time. So that's one upcoming project. The other one is for my brother, and it's a little risky showing you this in case he's watching, but I don't think he will. So Joe, if you're watching, just turn it off now, because this is not something you're supposed to see yet. All right. So I could not resist the Unbearable Hoodie pattern when it came out. That was maybe a year and a half ago. And I bought both the mini version for kids, and I made one for my nieces, which, oh, if I learn how to like insert a picture, maybe I'll do that, but no promises. The pattern is by Les Garçons, and I made one for his older daughter, and I thought, oh my gosh, how fun would it be to make a bear sweater for my brother? And he, if you know him, he's goofy enough, he would probably wear it. Well, he damn well better wear it, because he's way over 6 feet tall, and it's going to be a lot of work. But let me show you the colors I have picked out. There are 3 colors. I'll hold up the picture again. We don't have a color printer, so you'll just have to use your imagination. So there's a main color. This is what you need the most of. It's for the body and for the bears. There's a second color that is the top part and the flowers, and then there's a little bit of the third color that's used in the background. So what I've picked out for him, I have a dark charcoal. This is Valley Yarns Northampton, which is, it's a nice wool. I think it's pretty soft. I mean, this is going to be like an over shirt anyway. Decent price, lots of yardage. So I picked out dark charcoal and a heathery orange, because my brother loves to wear orange. So this is going to be the top part and the flowers. This will be the main body of the sweater. And then from my stash, it rolled way over there. I have a pale gray color that'll be the background. I thought like cream would be just a little too bright, too much of a contrast. So I found some gray. So that, like I said, my brother's really tall. So he has like a long torso, really long arms. Plus there's a hood on this thing. But he's my little brother, and they've had a hard year. I mean, with COVID and 2 young children who can't get vaccines and being stuck in the house a lot, and just all the stress associated with that. Like, it would be really nice to send them all something handmade this year. So those are the projects that I have planned that I brought with me to show you. I can see it's been about 23 minutes. So I think maybe I will share a little bit about what I've been reading, just to, you know, bring some variety into things, and then I'm going to wrap up. So, like I said, I'm a big reader. Since the pandemic started, it's been going a little slower for me. I think it's just harder for me to focus, and I mean, honestly, I've spent a lot of time online because that's a way to connect with people. And even now that I'm vaccinated and am able to go out in the world more, I still have this sort of mindset of being more isolated. So I don't know, but I'm trying to read more, because really it is good for me. And it's, I mean, I just think it's good to read a lot. That's how you learn about the world and spark your imagination. So I have 2 books to share. The first one is The Color of Law. This is a book I've been meaning to read for like 2 years, and I finally read it. I actually borrowed this from the library and didn't read it. Like, I just hung on to it, and I held on to it for so long that when I showed up to check out something else for one of my kids, they wouldn't let me check anything out because they had marked this as lost and charged it to my account. And then they said they wouldn't let me check anything out. So I slunk out in shame and decided to read this book. I I highly recommend this if you want to, I mean, anybody who is interested in the true history of how we built American cities should read this book. I feel like it should be required reading for anyone who has a degree in planning. Somehow I got through my planning degree without reading it, but like I said, that's a whole other story. But it's really about how we built our cities to be segregated and kept them that way even after laws were passed that were supposed to promote more equitable housing. They really didn't. And it's really about how it's not just, I mean, there are plenty of individual actions that affect our neighborhood makeup and everything, but this really brings home just how much policy affects, undergirds our individual actions. So this doesn't let us off the hook for being problematic, but it was really, really informative and really quite sobering. It was a lot of things to think about. So essential reading. You need to be resilient to read it because it'll bring you down. But good reading, good stuff. Speaking of books that are not uplifting, The Grapes of Wrath. My son decided to read this. He is a sophomore in high school. I'm not sure what prompted him to read The Grapes of Wrath. I think he's got a list somewhere of all the things he feels like he should read. So he read it. He was staying up late every night to read it. And when he finished it, he said, "Mom, I think that's the best book I've ever read." And I had read The Grapes of Wrath in high school. I was in junior English class and we had to read it. And for some reason, I quit before I got all the way to the last chapter and then I quit reading. I don't know why. I don't know if I got busy and didn't have time or if I just had like a mini rebellious streak and said, I'm not going to finish this book, but I don't know what happens at the very end. So I thought, my son really liked it. It's supposed to be a classic. I'll read it. So it's going a little slow because, like I said, I don't always devote time to reading like I should. I probably could have been reading that instead of doing this podcast, but there we go. But I am enjoying it so far. I mean, it's definitely the particular viewpoint of a white man in the 1930s, but there were some hard times for everyone. So, and I have, my grandparents lived through those days. So, and in the Midwest, in the plains, in that part of the country. So, where the book starts, it starts in Oklahoma. My, ancestors lived in Kansas and South Dakota, but the Dust Bowl certainly affected them too. So, anyway, that is what I'm reading. That's what I'm knitting. That's what I finished. If you made it this far, thank you so much. If you want to see me again, why don't you leave me a comment? And I hope everybody has a great day. Bye-bye.